What's up guys, it's Jukes, and welcome to the 41212 Narrow video guide. So here it is finally. Let me just start off by saying not everything I tell you is a guarantee to work out. None of this is a cheat code or anything like that. So I don't want this video to be me telling you you have to play the formation this way, because that's absolutely not true. So, you can always take this as a starting point and then customize, tinker things to your liking, and then see what works best for you. So again, just wanted to get that out of the way. Not a guarantee for success. Not everything I tell you is going to work out. Of course, you can always try what I tell you, and if it works out, great. If not, you can customize, tinker things to your liking, and then see what works best for you. So just wanted to get that out of the way before we begin. But yeah, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so custom tactics save this year, which is a nice change because in the past two FIFA games they did not save. It's also very easy to set up now as well. All you have to do is access the squad management options in your squad, and then they're right there with player instructions and player roles and kit numbers as well. Keep in mind it's not a global custom tactic, so if you have more than one team, you have to set up the tactic again. But also you're not forced to use the same custom tactic on each of your teams, so keep that in mind too. But they do permanently save this year, so if you back out of Ultimate Team and go back in, they will be saved. So that is a nice change. But yeah, custom tactics. So they differ from last year. We have speed on 70 still, just helps quick attacks better. Your players make more aggressive movements up the field in unison. It's more of a collective movement that happens than if your speed is higher, but also the movement itself, it helps you transition into quick attacks much easier if the speed is higher. Also gives you more freedom to do driven passes. If the speed is higher, players will make movements faster, sharper, and all that. And driven passes, they're not as effective as they are last year, but I still feel like they're a good weapon to have. Especially in tight competitive games. You can break those gaps that your opponent might have in his defensive line or in his shape on the field, and those driven passes help you get from point A to point B very fast. So even though ground passing is much better this year, like normal ground passing, driven passes are still the go-to move, I feel, or the go-to pass for getting into quick attacks. So we still have speed on 70. That's the same as last year again. We just want to make sure our players move collectively quicker so we can get into quick attacks better. But passing, this is the change for last year. We had passing last year on 20, which was short passing. This year we have it on 40, which is mixed passing. So I've done this for multiple reasons. One, I tried passing on 20 with speed on 70. I felt like my players were not making enough runs, so the formation was rigged and it was very hard for me to create multiple goal scoring chances. I felt like players were way too static, and with passing and possession being much easier to do this year, I feel like it's unnecessary to have the passing on short. One, your players don't make as many runs. Two, the formation itself is already condensed and narrow, so they bunch up even more so. I feel like that's not really beneficial to the formation itself. And also, three, with the players being more condensed together, I feel like it makes it much easier for the opponent to defend you. So with the passing on 40, your players are spread out more. This helps attacking with more unpredictability, but also I feel like it lessens your need to shield. And even though shielding is very effective and you have to shield this year, I feel like if you're forced to shield too much, it slows down your attacks. So passing on 40, you're not relying on the shield too much. So I feel like that's another bonus, and plus the passing on 40. But that said, if you do want to, if you don't want to use the passing on 40, you want to drop it to 20 or 30, that's fine. If you do that, I would recommend dropping the speed as well, because I think the two values, they need to be close together. This isn't something I recommended in the previous FIFA game just because I feel like it didn't make a difference. I feel like this year, if your values are too far apart, they offset each other and they just kind of basically negate each other. So if you want to use passing on 30 or 20, I would recommend lowering the speed as well. So if you want to use passing on 20, you can lower the speed to 50. And I feel like it'll work off much better than speed on 20. Or not speed on 20, passing on 20, and then speed on 70. So just giving you that tip. But yeah, Organized, still on positioning. We don't want the back four and even the CDM roaming too much out of position when we're building up. That said, you could do freeform. I feel like it's not necessary just because, I mean, possession is just much easier to keep this year. So I feel like organized makes you defensively secure, but you don't lose much in terms of the build-up as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for build-up play on custom tactics. Let's move on to chance creation. All right, so moving on to chance creation now. We've still got passing on 70. We want passing on 70 because you want players making more runs off the ball. You don't always have to make those passes to your players making runs as well. You can use those runs as bait, which gives you more space to attack with. Or, of course, you can always make the pass itself. Just 2 pluses, really. Your players making more runs gives you more space to attack with, or you can feed those passes into the players making the run itself. So it just makes attacks, I feel, much easier, especially when you get into the final third and your opponent might be having a packed defense or stuff like that. You can have one player making a run, like one of your center mids makes the run. You can feed the pass or use that run as bait to progress maybe into the box for another shot with another player. So passing on 70, I feel like just makes the attacks much easier and gives you more unpredictability as well. Makes it tougher on the opponent to defend the run itself, and the fact that he kind of maybe has to choose between defending the run or defending the player in possession. So I feel like passing on 70 is a must. That said, if you feel like passing on 70 doesn't work out for you, I would use passing on 50 or 40. Just something that, just balanced, I suppose, in terms of run making. I wouldn't go safe. I feel like that would hinder your attacking play. That said, if safe passing works for you, that would be values below 35 and under. You know, it could work. But I would recommend 70 passing. I feel like it'll help your attacking play a lot. Moving on to crossing, as you guys know, I barely cross. That said, before that first patch came out, I was crossing it a bit. Although I did have Ibrahimovic then and Martial up top, so I was kind of forced to cross somewhat, especially because I was still getting used to the game and adapting, and crosses were kind of my bailout back then. But I do not cross now, so I put it on 20. I could even lower it even more, but I used 20 last year and I didn't cross last year, so I just kept it at 20. If you do cross, if you have 2 target men strikers up top, I would probably bump this to 50. That said, I've never used crossing above 20, so this is one where you would kind of have to tinker yourself like entirely and see what works best for you if you do cross more. Like I said, I just do not cross at all, so I've kept this at 20. But if you do cross more, definitely tinker with this value, see what works best for you. I think crossing on 50, if you do cross a decent amount, probably would work best. Plus, with passing being on 70 as well, you would have those players making runs into the box too, so keep that in mind. So shooting, we have this on 70. I had this on 60, moved to 70, then back to 60, then finally I settled on 70. I feel like for me, 70 shooting gives your players, they bomb up more into shooting positions, which makes it easier to score goals. That said, this does have a negative in the sense that your CDM will bomb up more. Even if you do instruct him to stay back, he'll still bomb up the field because you're kind of instructing him to get forward with the shooting being so high to get into shooting position. So me, I don't mind my CDM pushing up a lot just because I feel like if he does push up a lot, if I do lose possession, he'll be up higher up the field to retrieve possession for me. And especially if you have a good CDM who packs a good shot, like someone like Vidal or Marquisio or someone like that, you know, shooting on 70 definitely does have its benefits. But, I mean, it does have a negative in the sense that your CDM will bomb up a lot, even if you do have him on stay back. So you have to see which one works best for you. I like the shooting on 70. I feel like it helps my attacks even more so. But if you hate your CDM pushing up a lot, I would lower this to 60 or even 50. You could even go as far as 30 little shooting and see what that would do. I feel like that might make it harder to attack, but I've never used shooting that low, so something to keep in mind. Shooting being so high means your deeper players will make more runs, which might cause counterattack opportunities for your opponent if you lose the ball. That said, if they're higher up the field, you might have an easier time winning the ball back. So something to keep in mind, definitely. So positioning on freeform, the reason why we have this on freeform now is because you want that unpredictability in attack. You want your players roaming around a lot. With the strikers, like I said, with the strikers in this formation, they do drift out wide in general, so they're the ones that provide the width. I feel like positioning on freeform helps with that in that regard. That said, if you hate your players roaming around in the final third too much, I would definitely use organized here. But me, I use freeform because I feel like that unpredictability that you gain from freeform positioning just makes it tougher on the opponent. And I mean, FIFA is all about making it tough on the opponent, I feel. Hey, if you like organized, if you want that stability, I suppose, in attack, I would recommend organized then. Yeah, that's pretty much it for chance creation. Let's move on to the defense portion of custom tactics now. Alright guys, so moving on to defense now. We've got it all on 45 this year. Last year we had it, pressure was 70, 60, aggression and team width was 40. So I did try that out at the beginning of FIFA 17. I think I used it for a month and it just did not work out for me. Pressure is just much harder to do this year, plus it's easier to negate pressure as well. Normal ground passes have more zip to them. You can bypass pressure with them much easier this year than you could last year. You don't always have to driven pass this year to bypass pressure like you did last year, kind of almost. Those, off balance passes, those spinning back passes, they're more accurate this year as well. So it's harder to punish bad passing where it was kind of easy last year. Manual tackling is worse this year. One, because it's just kind of the mechanic itself is more inconsistent, and then shielding is just more effective this year than it was last year too. So I feel like there's a lot of negatives in going with a high pressure system. That said, it's not impossible to press. You just have to be a bit more calculated and measured in how you do it. Like I said, I'd always press more in your opponent's half versus in your own half. And I'd always kind of try to press a bit more out wide versus centrally as well. But yeah, we've got it all on 45. So the game plan defensively is you try to press in your opponent's half. If you can nick the ball off him, you have an easier path to go. Once he gets to your half, you're a bit more, you back off and you kind of bait him into making the mistake. That's how I defend personally. That said, if you do want that high pressure line, you could use what I used last year, which was 70 pressure, 60 aggression, and team width on 40, see what works out for you. Or you could even go with a very low pressure system, like 30 on all three of them, 30 pressure, 30 aggression, and team width on 30. See what works out best for you. So we got the defender line on cover. That's the same as last year. We do not want that offsides trap. We don't want your back four pushing up needlessly. So that's pretty much it for the defense section. That's pretty much it for custom tactics as a whole. So you can use what I use, see if it works out. If not, customize things to your liking and see what works best for you. But yeah, that's pretty much it for custom tactics. So let's move on to player instructions now. Alright guys, so player instructions, the ones I use, pretty much similar to last year actually, but let's go over them again. So on the fullbacks, we've got both on stay back while attacking. Center backs are default as always, wouldn't ever recommend making changes to that. But fullbacks this year in general bum up a bit more than they did last year. So I feel like even on stay back while attacking, they still get forward a good amount. So you don't lose them in an attacking sense at all. That said, if you go stay back while attacking while starting the game on defensive, they do stay back a bit more and they don't get up, bomb up as much in attack. In terms of them unbalanced, I feel like it's a bit risky in FUT Champions because they do bomb up a lot. And you don't want to leave your two center backs unprotected. So what I'd recommend is stay back while attacking. I think it works pretty well. And in general, like I said, they do bomb up a lot more this year. So you don't really lose that attacking outlet from them, even on stay back while attacking. So yeah, pretty much the same as last year for the Pack 4 and the CDM as well. So we've got him on stay back while attacking as well. Something else I would recommend, wouldn't make changes to that. I did have stay back while attacking with man mark, but I felt like he was being dragged out a a bit too much for my liking. He was being dragged out wide, and I just want my CDM to be ahead of my center backs in attack or in defense. But you could do man mark and stay back while attacking. Depends on how you defend, I suppose. Me, when I defend, I like controlling my CDM the majority of the time, so I like him in a central position so I can go for tackles or even try to get interceptions with him manually. That's it. If you're not relying on him too much defensively, if you control another player, like if you control one of your center mids, I suppose you could have him man mark and do that patrolling role, I suppose, with the center mid. It kind of depends on how you defend, picking between stay back while attacking or stay back while attacking and man mark. Personally, I like stay back while attacking only. Like I said, man mark felt like he was being dragged out a bit too much for my liking, but try out both, see which one you like more. Sometimes you can't really tell the difference. There's just some games that happen where he gets dragged out a bit too much because he's like going to mark opposing players, so that's what I noticed in a few games. But try both, see which works best for you. Center mids got both on defaults, just like last year. I feel like everything that they do is just best on default. I wouldn't ever recommend making changes to interceptions as well for any position. If you got them on normal interceptions, they do the job well enough. They don't tire out too much, and the AI will do its job for you interception wise. If you put them on aggressive interceptions, like any position, I feel like they tire out way too much. And on conservative interceptions, I feel like your chances of the AI kind of picking the ball off your opponent is lessened as well. So I feel like them on default works best. You could always maybe change one center mid's instructions depending on how the game is going. Not something I'd recommend, but you could do that. For example, if you want to protect the lead, you could instruct one of them to stay back while attacking, or not stay back while attacking, but stay back while attacking. I thought it was come back on defense, but they changed the term this year. But yeah, you could do that, I suppose. But like I said, I recommend them on default. And even if you want to if you're down in a game, you could instruct one of them to get forward. But again, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I'd always make changes to the custom tactics or even formation changes before doing that. You don't want to leave yourself too exposed. And plus, you can always go attacking, ultra attacking as well. Let's not forget about that. But yeah, center mids feel like they work best on default, but you could always make your own changes if you want. I've never really touched on the support on crosses option for center mids. So if you cross a lot, you might have one of them go into the box for crosses. So see what works best for you, definitely. The cam. Last year he was default, so we've got him on stay forward this year. So I feel like he could still work pretty well on a default instruction. But reason I have him on stay forward this year is because I want him to be close to my strikers for counterattacks. So it's a bit harder to score this year in general. It's a bit harder to attack as well. So having that extra support for strikers during counterattacks is definitely helpful. Plus, in general, he does come back and supports the midfield even while on stay forward. But like I said, it might depend on which player you have there. So like I have Teammate Suarez, so I do want him up top as much as possible and as close to my strikers as possible. If you have more of a defensive-minded cam, maybe like Pogba, for example, you might want him helping out in the midfield. But yeah, kind of maybe depends on player choices or how you prefer to play. If you have him unbalanced, maybe you want that midfield to be a bit more close together than it already is. If you want them on stay forward, maybe you do want those counterattacks to be a bit more effective. So, see which one works best for you. Balanced instructions probably works as well as it did last year. I just wanted to make the change because it's a bit harder to attack this year. So that's kind of my line of thinking on that. Strikers, moving on to strikers though, we've got the same as last year. So we've got getting behind and press back line. I've used 3 different sets and they all work pretty well. So getting behind, press backline, that's the one that worked best for me. I used stay central, getting behind, which also worked pretty well. And I tried out stay central, press backline. That also worked out fairly decent as well. So you can always play around. I feel like with the strikers, you can play around with these instructions the most because there's a lot of different options you can do. You can always do both on default as well. I did try that once and it didn't actually work out too bad. But getting behind, press backline. So I've mentioned that it's hard to press this year, but I don't mind if my strikers press because if they win the ball back higher up the field, it's a bit easier to score. And then getting behind serves two purposes. One, you have them stretching the defense, potentially playing the through balls for them to get in behind your opponent's defense, and then the runs itself can drag a defender out, giving you more space to attack with. So it's beneficial in two ways with the strikers getting behind. That said, I did have stay central press back line on them for a few games, and it did work out pretty well. Kind of depends on what you want from your strikers. If you want them to be more available for the pass, I would not use getting behind. But personally, I feel like you don't need your strikers to always be available for the pass this year because it is much easier to keep the ball this year in general. So I guess it kind of depends on what you want. Personally, I think getting behind press back line works well, but stay central press back line, or even them both on default, works out pretty well. So again, play around with it, see what works best for you. But yeah, that's pretty much it for player instructions. So let's move on to chem styles now. Alright, so chem styles, just wanted to quickly, before I forget to mention it, that's not how my team looks at the start of the game. As you guys know, I started in the 4-3-2-1, then I switched this in-games just to avoid any confusion. Forgot to mention that during the player instructions. But yeah, chem styles. So I didn't think they do anything, I haven't thought they have done anything since they were introduced in FIFA 14. But we know that's not the case now. We know that they do something, and so it's definitely added a bit more variety to the game now, because now that I know that they do something, I definitely have to think about them when I'm making my teams now. But so keepers, I'd always go with glove, but I've seen people use cat on a few keepers and it works out pretty well. So moving on to fullbacks, I suppose I'll give you 3 examples and then explain how my line of thinking is for chem styles in general. So we've got Walker, Alaba, and then Alba. Walker, Marcelo, and then Alba. So we've got those 3 fullbacks. Pretty different stats in general for those 3 players. So with Walker, as you guys see, I've got anchor on him just because his defensive stats, physical stats, and pace are pretty high in general, so I decided to boost him up even more. As for Marcelo, though, I boost his pace and his defense, so I'd go shadow on Marcelo. And then with Alba, his pace is pretty high, but his physical is a bit lacking, so I want to boost that up to the maximum. So with Alba, I'd go sentinel. So kind of my line of thinking with chem styles depends on which player you have. But so Walker, I go anchor, make his strengths even better. With Marcelo, I want to get one of his weaknesses up, so his pace is a bit low, so I want to boost that up with shadow. And then with Alba as well, his physical is a bit lacking, so I want to boost his strength up, so I've got sentinel on him. So kind of how I like to use chem styles. That example there should make it a bit more clearer. But as for center backs, again, it kind of depends on the player, really. That's really the best way to describe it. So like for this team, I've got anchor on the entire back 4 just because their pace, defense, and physical stats are all pretty high in general, so I just make them even higher. Someone like Hummels, I suppose, for example, like I pop a shadow on him just to get his pace up a bit higher. But let's see who else. Maybe someone like Bailly in the Premier League, like maybe him I'd sentinel just because his pace is already so high and could make his defense and physical even better. But usually I like using anchor the most, just because it boosts the 3 key defensive stats, and I like having that. But again, it depends on the player. Like Marcelo, if I'd use him, I'd have Shadow on him just because his pace is a bit low. So that's kind of my line of thinking with Chem Styles on defenders. So in terms of the midfielders, as you guys see, I have Hawk on 3 of them, and then Pogba has got Hunter. So Hawk, I think personally, is the best Chem style in the game. So I like using that a lot. But I suppose it depends on which player you use at CDM, although I had Conte at CDM, and I could have popped a Deadeye on Conte just to make his shooting much better, but I actually had Hawk on Conte because I honestly think Hawk is the best Chem style in this game, in my opinion, at least. And so Pogba, I could have thrown Hawk on him, but since his strength is already so high, I might as well get that maximum boost of pace and shooting. So that's kind of what I like to do with Chem styles in general. If they've got something that's lacking a bit, I try to boost that to the maximum. But if they're in general good all around in a few stats, I try to get a Chem style that boosts their 3 best face stats as much as possible. Suarez we've got on Hawk. I mean, it's the team of the year, so it doesn't really matter as what you put on him. With the Chem, though, it depends on which player you run there. So let's say if we had Pogba or De Bruyne there, I'd probably throw a Hunter on him. But if you had non-informed Suarez, I'd use Hawk on him. So that's what I would recommend. As for strikers, again, it depends on which player you use, really. So if you use Ibra, I'd definitely pop a Hunter on him. But let's say if you got Messi, even non-informed Messi, probably go with that finisher just to boost his strength up. And I need to get finisher on my team to hear Messi as well. But yeah, Chem styles pretty much depends on the player choices. I would never have the same Chem style on all 11 players. Would be a bit silly. But yeah, depends pretty much on player choices. So keep that in mind. Hope that fullback example that I gave you guys at the beginning kind of makes it clearer about my line of thinking regarding Chem styles. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Chem styles. So let me give you guys 2 sample teams that you can start off with. And along with the 2 sample teams, let's also talk about player choices in general as well. Alright, so 2 sample teams. So the first one, you start off in the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, so pretty low budget team. Most expensive player, I believe, is De Bruyne. At the moment, might be De Gea. I think De Bruyne is still a bit more expensive than De Gea. So, pretty low budget team in general. Pretty good back 4. Pretty standard back 4 in the BPL. Again, you've got Conte, the menace at CDM. Yaya is an outside center mid. Mkhitaryan is an outside center mid. De Bruyne is the Chem. Martial up top with Gabriel Jesus. So, pretty low budget team. Something you can try out. If you want to use this formation for the first time, you could go with a team like this, I suppose. But in terms of what I like to look for in each position, I suppose the main team kind of shows that. As for fullbacks, the best ones I've used this year have been Walker, Alaba, Marcelo, and I suppose Shaw as well has been pretty good. In terms of center backs, Smalling, Boateng, and Ramos have been the best that I've used so far. So pretty much with the fullbacks, I do like them being when they have high pace. I mean, you still need pace to defend, but what's it called? It does help when the fullbacks can link up to good players as well. Like Walker is pretty amazing, and then you've got him linking up to Smalling, who is just kind of broken this year with how amazing he is. But in terms of what I like to look for in each position, really, I like Conte is very good when you start out with this formation, but after a while, once you get the coins, I would definitely try to upgrade him as you go along, because Conte is amazing defensively, but he's lacking in attack. So I usually like my midfielders to the CDM, the center mids, and the Cam. I want them all to be capable of attacking, but also capable to contribute defensively as well. So I hate using players with low stamina this year, didn't really bother me last year, but I hate it this year. So I always want to try and I'd always recommend getting a few players in with high stamina. But yeah, this kind of team could try out, give it a go, see how it plays out. Martial is pretty good up top. I've not used Gabriel Jesus, but he does have a lot of good stats. I mean, he has that 5-star skills, decent pace, good dribbling. Plus, he's got pretty high stamina as well for a non-informed card, which always helps out. Mkhitaryan, I like having one center mid that can get past people. So Yaya is a bit tanky, a bit sluggish on the ball, and then Mkhitaryan is a bit more nimble. So you wouldn't have problems bypassing pressure in this team with this team, I suppose. But I mean, it depends on the budget, really. If you don't have too many coins and you don't want to splash out too many coins, you could try out this team, give it a go. I mean, a lot of players I've used and they're amazing this year. Like talked about Smaller and Walker being amazing. Martial at the beginning of the year, I liked him a lot. He's an incredible player for the cost as well. Probably one of the best budget players in Ultimate Team history. De Bruyne is pretty good this year. That 5-star weak foot being gone is annoying, but he's still very good this year. And Mkhitaryan has that false winger role that I talked about last year, I think is very good as well. So you could try out this team, see how it plays out. Again, if you have the coins, you could always splash the coins on someone like Aguero or one of Son's informed cards or one of his man of the match card. But depends on what you go with. Yeah, this team starting out, if you don't want to splash too many coins, you could give this team a go. I have a feeling it play pretty well. If you have a bit more coins, though, would recommend a team like this, I suppose. I wouldn't use Andre Gomes, but if you're a bit OCD on cam, you kind of need him for full cam. Like, personally, when I had this kind of similar team like this, I had Modric in the center mid spot because I didn't mind them on 8 cam, but that doesn't bother you. You could go with Modric or, Andre Gomes, depending on how OCD you are with cam. Same with Pogba as well. Like, I have Walker at right back, but if you want Pogba on full cam, then you could go with Valencia, who is pretty good, except for that 1-star weak foot. But I've seen a few pros use him, so he's got to be good at right back if they're using him. Yeah, you could, if you have more coins, probably go with a team like this. It plays pretty well. Front three, no real words needed for those. And Vidal, Alaba, and Boateng are amazing this year. Plus, Neuer is the best keeper I've used this year as well. Then you've got Pogba, who is absolutely incredible, honestly. He is just one of the best midfielders in Ultimate Team history. Probably the best non-informed midfielder on PS4 Ultimate Team ever. Because, I mean, we don't have legends, so I don't know how some of those legend center mids play out, but Pogba is a must-have in FUT Champions, in my opinion. But yeah, if you have the coins, you could give this team a go. I'm pretty sure it'll play well, because I have almost the exact same main team as I showed you guys earlier. But yeah, that's pretty much it for player choices and then sample teams. Of course, I'll try to cover player choices in general a bit more in depth in the text guide, but I hope I gave you guys 2 teams that if you want to think about trying out this formation, they can kind of help you out in terms of what players to look for in each position. But yeah, that's pretty much it for player choices and then the sample teams that I showed you guys. So let's move on to just general tips with the formation. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it. Everything about the formation, pretty much covered it all. We'll definitely go a bit more in depth in the text guide, but thought I covered pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. In terms of general tips, I mean, use the formation a lot. It's very beneficial if you do that, really. I mean, I would never recommend having or playing with 2-3 different formations. Just feel like it doesn't help you improve as a player. So always find one formation and stick with that. And if you want to get better with the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, you pretty much have to use it exclusively. But yeah, in terms of general tips, what's it called? In terms of defensively, the way you want to play with the formation really depends on the opponent you come up against. But I suppose some tips I can give is, as always, never contain. Always jockey, gives you more freedom. If you're gonna press, do it more so out on the wings, but also press a bit more in your opponent's half than your own half. Once he gets into your half, try to play that more reactive defense where you just kind of react to what he does and force him into making a mistake, and don't be the aggressor. In terms of an attack, it's just much easier to keep the ball this year, so you can be pretty patient with the ball. You can always use driven passes as well to split the defense to attack quicker for those gaps that appear, like those short, medium range passes. You can driven pass that to attack quicker. Good use of skill moves. Really, skill moves have been nerfed this year, but there's still a few that work out pretty well. The scoop turn is still pretty effective. If you're going to do that, I'd always shield and then do it. It seems to be more effective that way and a bit quicker as well. Burba spin is pretty effective. It's also a good way to shield the ball as well. Igiti spin, also not bad. Fake shot, still pretty effective at times as well. Ball rolls aren't as effective last year, but if you do it with that no-touch dribbling, it's a very good speed boost move. And no-touch dribbling as well is still not bad as well. Again, not as effective as last year. With skill moves this year, you really have to time them really well. You can't spam them as much last year. And yeah, in terms of finishing, I'd always recommend far post finishes. So if you play your striker through on goal, I'd always go far post power with the finish. I don't like doing driven shots because I feel like they're more prone to blocks, and I'd never recommend finesse shots in the box. If you're going to do a finesse shot, do it outside the box on that angle towards the farther post. That's, I think, when finesse shots are most effective. But yeah, I think I've covered pretty much everything. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. I'll try and answer all of them. And like I said, I feel like I went pretty in-depth, more so than I did last year, but I will go more in-depth in the text guide. I don't know when I'll release that, but it'll be sometime soon. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed all the information I gave you. And again, one last time, I don't want this video to serve as me simply telling you how to use this formation. Again, you can kind of take what I've told you in this video and just use it as a starting point and then customize everything to your liking. Alright guys, that's pretty much the end of this video. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask below in the comments. You can always tweet me as well if you have any questions. I'll do my best to try to answer every question. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video. Like I said, if you guys liked it, I appreciate a thumbs up as always. Thanks a ton for watching this extremely long video. I will catch you guys next time.